Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this month's Google Hangout here at Business Training Made Simple. My name's Sarah Kerrigan and I'm part of the Made Simple group. And as usual today, I'm joined by Michelle Carville, social media consultant, author and trainer. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, great to be here again.
So this month we're going to be talking about content and how you can create a content strategy for your business. So Michelle's going to go through some slides with you. Any questions you have throughout, please do tweet us. You can tweet us via the hashtag GetTrainedUK or our handle, which is @GetTrainedUK. And you'll see the question apps at the side, and we'll answer all those questions when it comes to the end. One more thing, this Hangout is recorded, so we will send you the recording at the end of the day also. Okay, so now we're going to go over to the slides and get started. Okay, so Michelle, over to you.
Hi, so good afternoon, beautiful sunny afternoon, long may this continue. So what we're going to talk about today, as Sarah said, is content marketing, and you can see here there's some information about me. So I'm one of the directors, marketing director at Made Simple Group, and I'm a director at Carville Creative also, and you will see that there is the book, The Business of Being Social. I'm in the process of writing another book, but that book is, I'm very proud to say, the most 5-star reviewed social media book on Amazon. So it's doing really, really well. Lots of sales for a business book and lots of reviews. So if you haven't read it, do read it. And if you have read it, then do review it. So let's get on with what we're going to cover today. So you are what you share, setting your content strategy for business growth. And I thought that what we would do is kind of have a look at content, because content is around us, isn't it? It's everywhere. But then again, it always has been. And content marketing seems to be the new kid on the block. Some of you might remember who these guys were, but it really isn't that new. If you think about it, everything we've ever done, from TV ads to flyers, door drops, it's all content, and it's all about driving attention and earning attention. And this is where content marketing really differs, I suppose, from our traditional marketing activity, because in most of the traditional marketing activities that we do, we buy attention. So we will buy media space for advertisements, we will buy press advertising, we will even buy ads online, you know, through Google AdWords and various things. So we buy a lot of that attention. And where content marketing comes into play is it enables us as businesses to actually be able to create content which is compelling and that actually attracts people to us. So we talk about earning attention from the content that we create. And once upon a time, the content creators would have only been the big publishers or the big TV channels, whereas now we and you as businesses of all different shapes and sizes can create content, can actually create video of 6 seconds using an app on your smartphone, create movies, create blog content and share it. And through that compelling content that you share, you can earn attention without actually having to pay for the ad space. So, you know, there is this element that oh, anybody's a publisher, anybody's a provider of content these days, and they are, but what that means is there's an awful lot of content around. So I just want to look at content give content some context here. So if you think about being visible online, once upon a time, the majority of our presence online focused just around our website, and you can see there that the website is very much there, and for many of us, our websites are still the central point of our businesses. They are the shop windows that we have online, if we have online businesses, or if we're a service industry or a service business whereby people are looking to buy our services online. we may have retail shops, we might have those front shops, but even if you have a retail shop and you have that shop window, the real literal shop window, you're likely still to have a web presence. So for many of us, our online visibility is still very much driven by our website. And our websites need content, and it's unlikely that we update our content on a regular basis, because once we create those websites, the content that we, you know, the about us, the how it works, our services, etc., they're pretty static. It's unlikely that we're changing those on a daily basis. And yet we know that online, and we know that to attract audiences through very busy and content hungry channels such as social media, we need to be saying something. We need to be saying something that is useful, purposeful, educational, entertaining, relevant, so that we actually build some form of share of mind with the audiences that we're trying to attract. So this is where regular content via blogging, via putting out videos, via ebooks can really help to grow your presence in a very different way to just having your online presence via your website. And we'll come on to that further on throughout the webinar today. So why is content useful? Well, it's not just about the content that you create, you know, the actual tangible content, but also content is useful for your search engine optimization, because it helps to actually get more stuff out into the internet, you know, into the net, to actually build awareness and drive people to understand that you even exist. So it might be that you've shared a blog post, and actually it's that blog post that's doing quite well and has been optimized, that people pick up on, that then drives them to find out more about you on your website. So there are a number of ways that, you know, by sharing relevant content out into audiences, not only is it useful to the specific audience, but actually it's purposeful online and can help you with your search engine optimization. From a social perspective, well, as I said, social media channels are hungry channels. Twitter, you know, the updates are moving at so speedily. Same now with Facebook. You know, things have changed on Facebook. It's a much more pacier channel, and therefore you have to be thinking about, well, what are we going to feed into those channels? And very often I hear, oh, well, you know, we're not getting any engagement, and that's going to come down to the type of content that you are actually sharing, and whether or not that content is actually compelling enough to engage your audience. I always talk about the so what cheese sandwich. You know, people tweet about the fact that, you know, I've just had a lovely cheese sandwich for lunch. Well, that's not compelling. That's not content. That's just putting stuff out there. But actually being able to really use the content that you've got to compel people to want to learn more about you and to earn that attention, that can happen through your social channels. The other element, of course, is leads. It can actually generate direct leads. You can share content out there, which might be an ebook or a downloadable guide of some form, where people actually give their name and their email address. So it's helping you to build a sales pipeline, a leads pipeline, so that then you can understand what the content is that those people are engaging with, and deliver more content through them, and start to build those relationships. So it can be really useful for direct leads, and of course advocacy, for people to have got something really useful and to say, wow, that was a really interesting article, you should read this, Sarah. So then you're passing it on, and then Sarah might read it and she might pass it on to Emily, and Emily might read it and she might pass it on to Vicky, etc., etc. And that's how it works. So if the content is compelling enough, it will get shared and you will grow that advocacy. What I would say, however, is quality over quantity, always. I think when very often in our training sessions, in our content marketing training sessions, and in the social media introduction training sessions, people always come back to how much should we be doing, how much should we be doing. And what I always say is, don't just think you've got to churn out any old content just for the sake of getting some content out there. Because if you think about it, look, there's so much content out there. There's an explosion of content. If you want to search for anything, you'll pretty much find it. And so it's better to actually be more considered and be more strategic and be more thoughtful about the type of content that you create, and give time and attention to make sure that the quality of that content is great. Now, I'm not suggesting that, you know, from a video perspective that you have to bring in a whole production team every time you want to create some form of video. We know that there are brilliant apps, Instagram, you can use to create little smart videos. There are things like Animoto, which is another video creation site. There's Twitter Vine, which enables you to, you know, create little videos in 6 seconds. There's lots of things that you can be doing to be creative with the content, but put some thought into it and make sure that it's quality, rather than just churning out any old stuff just to say, tick a box to say, yes, we've got our content out there. So quality over quantity, really important. So what I'm going to do is walk you through a framework of steps as to what's important really when you are thinking about developing your content strategy. So first and foremost, it's really important you understand your audience. Who are your audience and where are they? You know, and when I say where are they, I mean which channels are they actually on? The other thing that you need to think about is what's compelling for them. You might be thinking, oh, we've got all this great content around this, that, and the other, or we've got some useful ideas around this, that, and the other, which might be great for you. But actually, what matters about getting your content shared and getting your content earning you the attention that you're seeking is actually that that content is useful to the audience. Useful can mean many things. It can be educational, informative, it could be entertaining. I mean, think about the content that you engage with yourself. Very often it's something that's made you laugh, or it's something that you find quite amusing, and that's something that you want to go. So think about those things, and think about yourself as well, what you engage with. Think about what pains your audience, what problems have they got that you can solve, because very often that can be the content that really resonates with the audience. We had a case study through in Business Training Made Simple where there was a telecoms company that had come on the training, and they shared that they had been creating videos around things that they thought were interesting. Yet when they actually went and did some research as to what was going on in their market with their audience, they found that there was a lot of confusion around certain things. And when they actually started changing their content steer towards actually delivering on those problems that their customers were having, they started to see a lot more engagement with the content that they were putting out there. So it makes sense, doesn't it? You know, if you're fixing somebody's problems, if they're seeking out that information anyway, and you've got the problem, the solution to that problem, then your content can actually really resonate with that audience. So understanding your audience is absolutely key. And if you don't understand that audience, then you have to put steps into place to understand them, whether it's a survey, whether it's a focus group, whether it's just doing lots of research online, you know, through Twitter or other media, then effectively just make sure that you have a really good grasp of what your audience are looking for. And as I say, connect in a very human way. What inspires you to take action? Think about the content that resonates with you, because that's really, you know, goes back down to the core of, you can say that, oh, this type of person, or this type of person, or this is my segment, or this is my, you know, target audience. But at the end of the day, we're all people, and we have basic you know, we have similarities and basic needs and functions. So think about the human side of what inspires you to take action, and that actually will give you quite a lot of steer as to potentially what others will engage with. If you're just receiving lots of information that you just think this is nonsense, then, you know, really think about the type of content that you're putting out there. The next step is to do some form of content audit. So what content have you already got? And as I said, you will have done your understanding the audience, so you kind of understand, you think what that, what the types of things that are going to be appealing to that audience, and then you have to come home and you have to think, okay, so what content have we already got and what's missing, and then you can start to build the gap, to bridge that gap. And it's just a simple gap analysis. This is what we need to achieve, this is what we've got right now, what's missing, and then you can document what's missing. And it might be that you think, people are crying out for video content around this, that, and the other. There just isn't anybody that is filling that gap. Well, that gives you a huge signal to say you could be filling that gap, and therefore you know what it is that you need to be moving on. So do your content audit, and don't, you'll be surprised just about how much content you probably already have and maybe already doing. You might already be blogging, you might already have some form of newsletter going out, you might already be creating case studies. These are all content. This is all content that you need to be thinking about and targeting towards your audience. So then, always with any activity, you should plan your content, and you should think about the objectives of that content. And your content isn't just about creating content for the sake of creating content. Your content should be about supporting your business objectives. So, for example, if your objectives were to target 25 to 30-year-olds who live in a specific area, then that gives you quite a niche area to target about, to create content for. So if that was your business objective, that you wanted to target that particular segment in France, then you would be saying, okay, so that's our business objective. What kind of content do we now need to help support that business objective? And so you just need to make sure that your content isn't just content for content's sake, but that it's got some purpose, that it's focused on helping you to deliver on your objectives. So these are all the kind of typical objective planning things that you need to think about. What are you looking to achieve? Who are you targeting? Where are you sending people? Very often, the content that you share out there usually has some form of call to action, which sends people or gets them to do something, signposts them and steers them into some form of activity or some page or something that you want them to do. So you really have to join all of that up and think, okay, so where am I sending people? What is it that I want to achieve? What are our key messages? What's our tone of voice? If I'm talking to this particular segment, we talk in this way. But if I'm talking to this particular segment, do we need to change the tone of our content? So you have to think about all of those things in your content planning. But fundamentally, don't just be creating content for the sake of content. It's got to add up. You've got to be putting your efforts into creating this content to support objectives. Other things that you need to think about in your content planning is things such as, what happens in your world. So it might be that there are seasonality elements or key events that happen. It might be that, if you're a fashion designer, then London Fashion Week is going to be a really big part of your content strategy, because in readiness for that you might want to have promoted some form of collection, etc. So seasonality impacts lots of us, and in many ways, and all of us have certain key events or certain industry activities that happen throughout the year. And of course then we have the basic things like Christmas and Easter and Valentine's Day and various things. You might want to be planning content around those areas as well. So it's really interesting to kind of take a step back and just think about seasonality and map out a topic list. Put a kind of, January to December, what happens in our world, what potentially happens in our audience's world, and then just map out some topics that might be of interest. So here we've got an example of that. It's a kind of timeline to help steer your topics. So these we've just popped in here and populated a whole different range of things. So for example, if you were an accountant, the fact that the tax deadline is the 31st of January is important, because you'd probably want to make sure that in the December and the November you were warning people of that. So your content would steer around something that is really quite impactful to your industry. In February, of course, we've got Valentine's, London Fashion Week, Easter, St. Patrick's Day is in March. But that does change, Easter, doesn't it? April, it might be that again there's some accountancy deadlines in April, if that's relevant. It might be that there's an annual conference that happens in your industry, or a big business show, or there's a big awards ceremony. In July and August, you know, they tend to be holiday months, so if you have any promotions around that period, or indeed that period is a very busy time for you, then of course you would be planning your content around that. So just basically take a step back and have a think about that seasonality, because that helps you to steer the types of topics and the types of content that you want to be creating. You really need to be thinking and acting like an editor. I mean, if we were trying to get a piece in Vogue next month, it would almost be an impossibility, because pretty much the editor and the content people at Vogue will already have laid down pretty much what is going to be happening for the next few months. They don't kind of scrabble around thinking, oh, we've got to fill this main editorial piece with something. What do we do? They have it very, very much planned out. So you need to think about that and start thinking and acting like an editor. Content collation and creation is curation is step 4. So think about the practicalities of procuring and creating tangible content. This is about bringing the content together. And one of the things we find works really well is when you bring a team of people to regularly talk about content. In a few instances, I know at Made Simple, for example, we have a blogging team, and they meet regularly and they talk about the blogs that they're working on. They look, everything is aligned through a content pipeline, which is based on the seasonality issues of things that can be happening to their specific startup audience, and so the content is then designed and created around specific objectives and around the audience. So whatever works for you, bringing a team together, it might just be you, but it might just be that you set aside some time to think about content, or you brainstorm with your mates or your work colleagues, whatever works, so that you regularly talk about content. And of course, it's about acknowledging that when you need to bring in the experts where necessary, you do. If you do need a higher corporate looking video and you don't have that expertise or those competencies in-house, then it's about knowing that, okay, we need to budget and we need to build in some time for bringing those experts in. So content is many things, and there's a list here, but this is by no means all of the different contents. We could go on and on and on, but this is just a few things. So blogs, video, white papers, thought leadership pieces, research stats, podcasts, webinars. I mean, this Google Hangout is a perfect example of content creation. So at Business Training Made Simple, part of the Made Simple group, we provide business training courses to a wide range of customers, and so these webinars aren't just done because Sarah and I like getting together and talking about what we do. We do like that as well. But they're done because there is a purpose. You know, there is a purpose. They meet our objectives of showcasing and promoting what it is we do as a business. And these are perfect little tasters of what the whole day training courses cover. So it gives you a bit of insight into who we are and what we do and the types of things that we cover. And then of course it hopefully encourages people to want to, you know, engage with us more, come on more of our webinars, or go and check out Business Training Made Simple and consider coming on one of our training courses. So you can see that content is many things. The key element to all of your content is making sure that it is working for you, that you can say, why are you doing that webinar? Well, we're doing that webinar because of this. Why are we running that event? Well, it's because of this. Why are you putting out those videos? Very clearly, because of this. Why are you blogging? Because of this. You know, so it's all about making sure that whatever content you do, there is purpose and objective behind it. And as you can see here, content is many, many things. So point 5 is about content, tone of voice and policies. I mean, this is something that does get missed, and particularly in larger organizations where, you know, content might be managed by a number of different teams. So if that's the case, or indeed it's always good practice to have some clear lines around what can and can't be communicated and shared, because there are instances where people just create you know, content and internally, and it can cause problems. So you just need to always make sure that the content and the tone of voice and what you're talking is appropriate and relevant, and sense check that of course any content is on brand and on message. This is an interesting little, I suppose, infographic image that I found, and I thought I like this because I don't know how clearly you can see this, but I'll talk you through it. Here it breaks content and your content strategy into 4 segments. So here we have, if we look at the top one over here, entertain, on the top left-hand corner, and here we have entertaining content. And here you can see you've got things like competitions, games, branded videos, virals, and quizzes. So you can see those things there. Over on the right-hand corner there, you can see celebrity endorsements, reviews, community forums. So this is, you know, more about inspirational content. In the bottom right-hand corner there, just going around the circle, we've got convince. So this is where it's much more factual content. So product features, case studies, ratings, price guides, calculations, forecasts, checklists, interactive demos, webinars. They're much more about convincing people that, you know, about what your content is driven to be more convincing. And then last but by no means least, educate over here. So in educate, we've got articles, infographics, press releases, reports, guides, demo videos. You can see some of them cross in and out of each other. But what this, you know, from a very, if we take this back to, you know, if we strip this back, what you ideally want to do is make sure that you are striking a balance across these. If you were to read a newspaper, if you were to read a magazine, if you were to you know, look at you know, somewhere like something, a publication, it tends not to be just one thing, because if it was just one thing, it can become quite dull. So it tends to be a mixture of content. So if you look at, for example, the Times, you'll have images, you'll have articles, online now you have videos, you have interactive blogs, you have social activity going on, there's a whole different range of content that is balanced to create a more compelling experience. So it's quite an interesting exercise to go around and look at the content that you're creating. And we did this recently at Made Simple, and we definitely found that we were doing a lot of convincing, maybe quite a lot of educating, but not much in the entertainment and inspirational side of things. So we've addressed that balance, and we are looking at building more things into our content pipeline to manage that. So it's quite a useful little exercise just to go around this and really kind of do a little audit on the types of content that you're creating and think, actually, where are we strong, where are we weak, where do we need to actually be improving our content, because ideally you want to get a balance around here. So number 6 is creating a publishing schedule. So this is really important because we often have really great intentions with our content, and however we don't stick to schedules. And content, if you go back to that slide that was over here that I put up in the beginning here, our online visibility, and this kind of features everything: frequency, recency, authenticity, and creativity down the left hand side here are enhancers of this. And we have to, with our content, we have to be frequent. We have to stick at it. You know, it's like blogging. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you really want to map out a matrix of what you're going to share and when, and really stick to that. Of course, you need to be measuring effectiveness so you know what's working. So once you've got that matrix, once you've got that process of what is going to be going out and when it's going to be going out, you've got that calendar of activity in place, then measure effectiveness so you know what's working. And if you see that there's high engagements with certain types of content, yet low engagement with others, this helps you to learn to steer your content creation in an ongoing way. So you should be continuously measuring and monitoring. Don't just be creating content, pushing it out there for the sake of it. You know, that's just a waste of effort. You want to be watching what happens with that content, looking at what people engage with. When they engage with something, try and understand why they've engaged with that, what resonated. Okay, that's really resonating. Was it a time of day thing? You know, was it that it was, is that something we need to test again? And so just continuously learning about your content and optimizing your engagement.
I'm just going to jump in there, Michelle, because I've got a relevant question. Social media can be hard to measure. What can I use to show my content is working? So specifically, what are the best things?
To show your content is working? Well, it depends what that content is. If that content was a blog post, for example, yep, you might be looking at in your Google Analytics to see how much traffic has gone to that blog post, how many people have been referred to your website through that blog post. So that might be one measure. Mm-hmm. It might be that your content is actually an ebook, and it's got a download this ebook, and you are capturing names and email addresses. So another way of measuring it would be how many names and email addresses have we captured versus, you know, versus other things that you've done to capture those names and email addresses. If on Facebook, if the content's on Facebook or on YouTube, it might be how many views did we get, or how many comments did we get, or how many people liked this, or how many people shared this. So you've got to set your own metrics depending upon what it is. But I suppose even if you're starting at the very beginning and you have no baseline or to go from, if you were to put content out, let's say on Facebook, and you see that a post gets this much engagement, and it's not very much, but then the next time you post something completely different, it gets a higher engagement, you think, okay, well, that thing completely different resonated with the audience more than the other stuff. So let's stick with this theme. Okay, let's learn from that and let's continue. So it's about watching and measuring, but those measurement tactics, as I've said, will be specific to what it is that you are looking to do with it. It could be analytics, it could be engagement, it could be downloads, it could be, in many cases, e-commerce purchases. You know, it could be absolutely anything. So this next slide here, what you learn steers content creation. You know, it's all about, I always talk about plan, listen, analyze, engage, and with our content it's just a slightly remodeled version here, because we plan, we share, we listen, we analyze. So we plan the content, We share it out, we listen. By that I mean we look at what people are engaging with, we then analyze that, and then we plan some more. So this is an iterative, dynamic process. It isn't something we do once and we leave. We're constantly listening and learning about which content is resonating, and in some cases that will be which content is resonating with different audiences. It might be that you start to see that different demographics in your audience start to engage with different types of content, and that's where we are with content, because once upon a time that content was, you know, newspapers largely, press ads, cinema ads, TV ads, and magazine ads. Now, of course, those content is everywhere. People can engage with you on Facebook, on social networks, on your website, in forums. So there's a lot more channels for people to be able to engage and consume content. So you've got now to be watching and thinking, okay, let's plan, let's put it out there, let's listen to what's happening, let's analyze the situation, and let's optimize and plan again based on what we are learning. So that is this continuous learning. Understand your content, so who, what, where, when, how, and why. So this is the same point, really. You know, who is your audience? What is their demographic profile? Are they male? Are they female? Age, location? Does this align with your typical customer profile? So it might be, I mean, one of the things we've found when we were doing a case study with one of our customers that came on a business training was that they had a client who they found they thought they knew their demographics, but what they found was that the people that were talking to them on Facebook and engaging with them on Facebook were a completely different demographic. So you really have to be thinking about who is consuming your content, and sometimes it's not who you think it is. So do try and drill down to understand who is doing what with what you're putting out there. Also think about the what. So what did they engage with? What did they share? Who did they share it with? This helps you to learn about what's working and helps you to create more targeted content to continuously drive engagement. Another important thing to think about is when. What time of day are they engaging? Was it at the weekends? Was it a specific weekday? Was it within work hours? Was it out of hours? What we've found now is, you know, a lot of people engage on social networks, particularly in the commuter time, so beginning of day and end of day. So there might be things that you need to be doing in those periods, depending on your audience and the different channels you're using to share your content. You need to be thinking about the when, and also what are they using? You know, did they come to you via mobile? We're seeing an increase in mobile generally, aren't we? About mobile usage and mobile commerce. So are they coming to you from mobile, desktop, tablets? This helps you to understand times of engagements and the platforms being used. And then, of course, where did they come from? So did they come from Twitter? Did they come from Facebook? Did they come from LinkedIn, Google+, YouTube, your blog? What's driving them to your site? And I mean, if you're using analysis tools on your site, even, you know, things such as Google Analytics, that will tell you what's driving people to your site and which platforms they came from. And then you can start to see if you are seeing any patterns, and you can start to build a picture of which channels your audiences are using and what's driving them and compelling them to come and explore what's going on. And then finally, you know, why are they engaging? Was it an offer? Was it a free guide? Was it a download? Was it a referral from another site? What made them engage? So this gives you ideas around improving engagement tactics as well. So 3 key things to kind of leave you with. Plan your content. Give people a reason to engage. Make your content useful, purposeful, relevant, educational, informative, even entertaining. You know, entertaining is very permissible and is very often the thing that really grabs the attention and compels people to share and explore. So give people something compelling that encourages them to know you, like you, trust you, talk about you. It's not necessarily the direct sell. You know, social and content, it would be hard push to do that, but it's about getting people to start that relationship with you and to get to know you, like you, and trust you. and talk about you, which is advocacy, which is great. Understand what people want from your content. It really is important to figure out what it is that you should be sharing, what matters to them. You might think you've got stuff that you want to say, but really think about what matters to your audience. And don't float in the sea of sameness. And by that I mean there's so much content out there. Look at the content that's out there, and if you are thinking about, oh, well, we're going to start doing videos about such and such, whatever, well, then do the research and see what is already out there so that you can actually look at where you can be making a real difference, because you need to deliver content that compels and engages, and it isn't just enough to say, oh, we're just going to push out any old content. So really think about the content that you share, and if it's about what you do, great, because then that's personal, it means something, it's a topic you're passionate about, and you're probably going to be good at it, because this is what this is what your business does. So focus on that. Don't try to just do what everybody else is doing. Focus on what really matters and can make a difference for you. And finally, you are what you share. So be mindful of what you share and be proud of what you share. If you put something out there, is it something that you're really proud of? Because that is what is fundamentally going to come back to you. That is the reputation. You are what you share. So it's a really simple statement, but it really matters, and it's one to think about. And fundamentally, content creation right now, many of us are thinking, oh my goodness, there's a lot to do with content, but content creation is something we've always done. It's just that now we have more opportunities to create more content, more video, more written content, ebooks, e-guides, infographics, videos. There are tools out there that allow you to create your own content without the needs of designers and production companies, and there are, and we have the internet, which is, the TV channels, the new TV channels of the world that enable you to be able to publish things to much wider audiences and extend your reach considerably. And so content creation should really become a habit for most businesses. I mean, brands and businesses are, it's been bandied around for a while that everybody's becoming a publisher, but everybody's becoming a publisher. Anybody can be a publisher from their smartphone. So I suppose be smart about your content and make sure that the content that you're creating is something that you're proud about and that you think is genuinely compelling to your audience. And okay. So I think that's it, Sarah.
Yeah, we've got a few questions here.
Happy for questions.
Popped up, so we'll start going through them. There are so many forms of content out there. Where should we start with no content strategy in place?
I would start with research. I think the planning side, think about what it is as a business you are looking to achieve, and you'll have ideas about what you're looking to achieve. It might be that they might be really basic ideas, such as I just need to generate new business. Okay, well, who is your ideal customer? Well, my ideal customer looks like this. Okay, so where is that ideal customer? What are they engaging with? What do they like? Okay, go on to social networks and start researching and finding out more about what those types of customers do, what they're engaging with, what types of content is out there for them to engage with. And so that gives you an idea about your audience. Think about what it is you do and what it is that, if you want to put yourself under their nose and build some share of mind and become visible and compelling to them, given what you know about them, what do you think that you could be giving them? What kind of things would they want from you? And so I suppose it all starts with research. Start with research. Get out there, do some research, think about and look at what others are doing. And if you ever see anything like, I think I could be doing that better, then do it better.
Okay, lovely. Another good one here. What's the best way of getting to know my audience so that I can share relevant content?
Again, it's about listening, isn't it? It's about getting to know your customers.
The demographics as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's demographics that you can see in Facebook will give you demographics.
Analytics.
Your analytics will give you demographics, and once upon a time we'd have done good old-fashioned surveys. You can still do those surveys. You can run Twitter surveys. You can go on. There are so many forums and so many groups and groups of and interest groups out there that you can just ask the question and people will answer, on things like Twitter. So it's about look at your analytics and then think about devising some ways that you can find out more if that isn't answering all your questions.
Last one here, it's a bit general. How to make a strategy for my big idea with no money to start with.
How to make a strategy for my big idea with no money to start with. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I love the story about, I can't remember their name. I think they're a sports brand, and it's the sports Zagara or something, and it's the sports brand that I should know about, but they husband and wife team that had a big idea about fitness clothing that when you wear it, it heats up, so you lose more weight when you wear it. And they had no money. They had this big idea, which sounded a little bit odd to a number of people, but they had this big idea and they had no money. So what they did was they went through the prototyping pain and they went through all of that, and they got the product made, and they thought, we've got no money to market this, we're not Nike, we're not any of these big brands, what on earth do we do? And they turned to social media, and what they did was they found the key influencers on social media. So that's a really important step in thinking about who is my audience and who can help me, who are the influencers, who is going to help me to be more influential, and who are the influencers. So if I can make friends with the influencers, and if those influencers talk about me, that's going to have some impact. And that's exactly what they did. They sent key bloggers in the sportswear sector their samples and said, we want you to try them. They did some really rudimentary little videos of them wearing them and saying, well, these are the results we've seen. We want you to do this challenge. We want, they kind of challenged them to do their stuff and to see if they could lose weight and do various bits and bobs. Very, very rudimentary, very, very basic. But now, I think some 5 years later, they've got a multi-billion-pound business, and they always put it back to, I mean, obviously there's been a lot of blood, sweat and tears, but they say that without their social media strategy of contacting influencers and really growing the brand from the ground up in using the people in the know to help them to promote what it is they did, that they a lot of their success they attribute to that, because they just wouldn't have had a platform to perform on without it. Of course, the product always has to stand up. You can't sell rubbish, and so their product clearly did stand up, and there was lots of things. So I suppose, to answer that question through that case study, find out who's influential, find the influencers, and again, the influencers in their space were bloggers. So they found the right bloggers and they sent them their product. They challenged the product, them to take the product, and they started to build stories. The bloggers talked about it. They had big audiences. They wanted to sample it, and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew.
Okay, another quick one's just come in here. May I use the same content for all social networks? Does it make sense?
It doesn't really make sense, no, but it depends. If, for example, people on Twitter, if you think about Twitter, it's 140 characters. So you might have created a wonderful piece of research, and that wonderful piece of research or an infographic or a wonderful article that you've taken considered time over, and you're going to tweet about it on Twitter. So you would have a headline, wouldn't you? Some kind of intro, compelling headline for that tweet that you would share on Twitter. The same piece of content could be turned into, whatever it is, a video. Now, it could be that you're tweeting a link to a video, or it could be that you're interviewing somebody around their thoughts about this piece of research, who is potentially a thought leader. So you've taken the same piece of content, but you've said, oh, how can we do this? I know, let's get a thought leader's opinion on it. So now you're creating a different piece of content around the core piece of content. So it might be that the video takes that, or it might be that the video is a demo, and it's just the demo that you've tweeted out. So you can see that already you've got you're doing different things with the content. On LinkedIn, it might be that the tone of voice and the things you want to say to a more professional audience on who are more B2B over on LinkedIn, you don't want it to be as familiar as maybe you've talked about it on Facebook and Indeed or on Twitter. So you might change the tone of voice for LinkedIn. And of course on Facebook specifically it's very image focused. It likes images, it likes video. So you might have repurposed that piece of content into an image or an infographic for Facebook. But it might be the same content, and it might all link back to a blog or a landing page on your website where people can do something else. So you've taken the same core piece of content and the essence of that content, but you've actually had to amend it accordingly to be appropriate on each of the channels based on how people engage with each of the channels. So it isn't unfortunately as simple as having the same piece of content and just putting it across all platforms. You can do that, but you'll get very, very little engagement. So they call that, there's a fancy name for that, transmedia planning. And what it means is that, you know, you've got many platforms and you've got one message, but you need to make sure that that message is articulated appropriately based on the channel that you're talking to. So yes, so it isn't just as simple as that, Danielle, I'm afraid.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
All right, it's a pleasure.
Lots of inspiration in there if you want to go out and start creating your own content. As you can see on the screen here, we've got lots of things going on our social media channels. We've got a competition at the moment on our Facebook page. Just go over and like our page and click on the competition tab. And if you enter a piece of business startup advice, you'll be entered into a prize draw for winning one of our training courses here at Business Training Made Simple. So well worth doing. On Twitter, you can follow us. We tweet course discounts at random times if you're watching. Social media platform updates and lots of very useful tips. On Pinterest, that's where we share all our blogs and infographics. And that's Made Simple groups. There's lots of digital marketing, small business and startup advice on there. And if you follow us on Google Plus or subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll see all our past Hangouts. Okay, our next courses, we've got Twitter for Business on the 12th of June, Facebook on the 16th, and digital content on the 27th. So if you want to know more about content, then take a look at that over on our website, Business Training Made Simple. We have got a number of new courses as well. We've got Pinterest and Instagram. We have the first one of that half-day course on the 20th of June. And we've got a sales course, Sales Training to Boost Your Business. That's about learning how to sell and learning the scientific formula to selling. So everyone can learn how to sell. It's not something that just comes naturally like a lot of people think. So check that out. And we'll be launching our Google Plus course in September, half-day course. So that's very exciting. So stay tuned for that. And our next Google Hangout will be on Google+. I'll be taking that, and it'll be how to create an engaged audience on Google+, because lots of people seem to struggle with that. We've had a lot of feedback, so we're going to look into that. Okay, thank you all for joining us today. We're just going to do a quick goodbye to you all before we leave you. There we are. Bye. Have a nice day.